Hi, everyone, and happy World Environmental Day. We're really excited to welcome you for this launch of the pre-registration for the e-learning course on ecosystem restoration, developed jointly by the CBD Secretariat and UNDP. My name is Blaise Baudin, and I work as a consultant for the CBD Secretariat for the Forest Ecosystem Restoration Initiative. And so we think this is going to be a great and very timely resource for the beginning of the decade to make sure that everyone has access to the knowledge they need to plan and implement restoration in the best possible way. And today we have a great lineup of speakers that will tell us more about the course. And as we have a fairly tight schedule and quite a number of speakers, I will, without further ado, pass the floor to Mrs. Lisa Janiszewski, from the CBD Secretariat as well. Lisa has been working since 2006 as a program officer and senior program assistant for the CBD, covering themes of biodiversity and climate change, as well as ecosystem restoration. Lisa, we're listening to you.
Okay, thank you so much, Blaise, and welcome and good time of the day to everyone. I'm very honored, I'm very happy to speak to you today to celebrate this launch of the registration for the e-learning modules on ecosystem restoration that are being developed by UNDP experts and the team at the Convention on Biological Diversity, or CBD. And these are to be featured on the Learning for Nature platform. As Blaise mentioned, my name is Lisa. I've been fortunate to work on a few topics at the CBD Secretariat in the Science Division for the last 15 years, and I currently focus on ecosystem restoration, including the implementation of the Forest Ecosystem Restoration Initiative, or FAIRY, which the CBD has implemented since 2015, and this has been with the generous support of the Korea Forest Service. We have recently signed a new memorandum of understanding with the Korea Forest Service, and in this context, we look forward to implementing a wide-ranging capacity building strategy, including e-learning, over the coming 5 years. To deliver its mandate, the FAIRY has worked with multiple partners, notably FAO, IUCN, the Society for Ecological Restoration, the International Institute for Sustainability, and many others, to provide countries with information and technical support, largely through workshops and webinars, and FAIRY has contributed to the development of tools for effective and efficient ecosystem restoration. FAIRY has also provided catalytic co-funding to projects on restoration, which are proving to be useful as case studies. Among other overall objectives, FAIRY has aimed to support countries not only to achieve the Aichi biodiversity targets, but also to implement the short-term action plan on ecosystem restoration that was adopted by parties at CBD COP13 in 2016. So in the context of wrapping up the first phase of the FAIRY and celebrating the launch of this UN decade, and with the upcoming adoption of the post-2020 Global Biodiversity Framework, it's a good time and a good opportunity to tie all of this information on restoration together. The steps of the action plan that was adopted as a flexible framework, the examples from projects and other case studies, knowledge products and tools, as well as bringing in the voices of experts. And we'll also plan to provide templates for users to complete during the e-learning module process. All of this is to be presented in an online format in a user-friendly package with the primary aim to assist national level planning on ecosystem restoration on land under an overall ecosystem approach. So the Secretariat will make use of these e-learning modules as part of a larger strategy for supporting countries to implement effective ecosystem restoration to achieve multiple benefits, and supporting the eventual implementation of the Global Biodiversity Framework. And the modules will be available, freely available, in English, Spanish, and French. The modules are being built to incorporate other tools and information as much as possible. We do appreciate that there's truly a lot of work that has been going on. There's a vast amount of information, and so we are working with the support, review, and contributions of several other agencies to help curate this information and highlight it in a way that makes sense. So with that introduction of the modules and the background and mandate, I look forward to this session today, where we can all take a breath and celebrate the launch of the registration of these e-learning modules on ecosystem restoration that will be open for use this September. So I gratefully acknowledge again the generous contributions of the European Union and the Korea Forest Service through FAIRY for the development of these modules. I'll now hand it back over to Blaise. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lisa. And just before we hear a message from the director of the Korea Forest Service, our main funder for the Forest Ecosystem Restoration Initiative, I just wanted to mention to our participants that if you have any questions for the speakers about the presentations, about the content of the course, any questions about the practicalities of accessing it, there is a Q&A button, and we encourage you to click on this button at the bottom of your screen and to address your questions through that function rather than through the chat, which is more for general chit chat between the participants. And with regards to interpretation, because we had a couple of questions on that, unfortunately, we don't have interpretation for this event. But as Lisa mentioned, the course itself will be available in several languages. And so I now propose that we listen to a message from Byung-ki Han, who is the director of Korea Forest Service, and who will address the audience about the engagement of KFS behind this initiative.
Thank you so much, please. I'll play the video from the director of the Korea Forest Service now.
Of the Korea Forest Service. I'm very good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I am Byung-ki Han, Director of the International Cooperation Division of the Korea Forest Service. I'm very pleased to speak at this meaningful event today. Also, my special thanks go to the CBD FAIRY team, UNDP, and EU for the effort to organize this event and develop this e-learning course. First of all, this event is very timely in the context of the launch of the UN Decade on Ecosystem Restoration. The world is paying a great attention to the need of ecosystem restoration and various global commitments, such as the Bond Challenge, the UN Decade on Ecosystem Restoration, and the post-2020 Global Biodiversity Framework. We also share a common understanding that more global efforts are needed to accelerate ecosystem restoration. The CBD Secretariat and the Korea Forest Service, KFS for short, launched the Forest Ecosystem Restoration Initiative since 2015. KFS is greatly pleased that we are able to provide support through FAIRY in developing this e-learning course, aiming for capacity building on ecosystem restoration. Particularly, I believe that this course will give participants practical assistance, taking advantage of the UNDP's existing platform, where the course will be provided. Ecosystem restoration efforts at the regional and global level are very paramount. Forests in Korea take up 63% of each land. This is a great outcome of a nationwide effort from Koreans that turn barren mountain into lush green forest. Building on this successful experience in forest restoration, Korea Forest Service is supporting developing countries in national restoration activity, with aiming to contribute to global commitment on restoration by implementing a number of programs, including FAIRY with CBD. Lastly, I'm very delighted to inform you that KFS, in partnership with the FAO, will host the 15th World Forestry Congress in Seoul, May 2022. As you may be aware, this Congress will be the largest and the most influential international gathering in forestry sector. In the World Forestry Congress, current and emerging forestry-related issues will be addressed, discussed under its main theme and 6 sub-themes. I kindly request for your undivided attention to the 15th World Forestry Congress. Once again, I would like to thank you all for attending this event, and especially thanks the CBD Secretariat and all relevant partners for effort in developing this great e-learning course. I sincerely hope to see you all at the 15th World Forestry Congress in Seoul next year. Thank you.
So after these inspiring words from the director of the Korea Forest Service, I'll hand over now to Jamison Irvin, who will tell us about the Learning for Nature platform on which this course will be proposed. Jamison Irvin is manager of the Nature for Development program at the United Nations Development Program, and her focus is on helping governments to put nature at the heart of sustainable development, including through collaborative spatial planning. Jamie, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Blaise, and welcome everyone. I'm going to share my screen with a short presentation. Pardon me for just a moment. There we go. So welcome everyone. I'm Jamie Irvin, as Blaise said, and I'd like to give you an overview of the course on ecosystem restoration. We are so excited to have this partnership with the CBD Secretariat, but also with FAIRY, with the Korea Forest Service, with the EU, and as is to be part of the UN Decade on Ecosystem Restoration. Just a few words, why does the UN, United Nations Development Program, care about restoration? Well, the answer is really simple. Nature underpins sustainable development. We cannot achieve our global goals without protecting, restoring, and sustainably managing nature. And this is the most important decade of our generation to do this. So a few words about Learning for Nature. Learning for Nature is a platform that is a collaborative effort between the United Nations Development Program, the Convention on Biological Diversity Secretariat, and many other partners. You can take a look at learningfornature.org. We have a number of offerings, and I invite you to check them out, including massive open online courses, self-paced modules, podcast, and the like. Something to note, we have more than 30,000 users on our platform, 75% of whom are from developing countries and are policy relevant. And we're really excited to see the level of engagement. We have over 13,000 peer-to-peer engagements. We invite you to be part of that discussion. We have a number of partners, and we're always inviting new ones. We have a number of completed courses that you're still welcome to access. These are topics such as green entrepreneurship, designing multidimensional poverty index, biodiversity finance, and many other relevant topics of the day. We're so excited to have this new module on restoration. The course itself will be launched on September 3rd. You can register today, and you'll get all kinds of emails helping you figure out how to join. It is self-paced. You can take it at your leisure. It's in English, French, and Spanish. I saw the note about Arabic. We are looking for resources to have additional languages. We're always glad to translate when we have resources to do so. The target is really government representatives and civil society who care about ecosystem restoration. The course will introduce you to short-term action planning for ecosystem restoration, and we invite you to join. I won't go into the details other than to say there are 5 lessons, and we cover a range of course objectives. And by the end of this course, we guarantee you'll be able to understand ecosystem restoration, understand the specific steps in developing a plan, and you'll be able to have a plan that you will have developed. We'll have micro lessons, case studies, worksheets, quizzes. The commitments are about 3 to 5 hours per module. Really warmly invite you to register today. And I think you see the link on the screen. Before I turn it over to Julie to show a short video, the trailer, I want to just say that today is World Environment Day with the theme of reimagine, recreate, and restore. I invite you personally to use this opportunity to register for this course and to begin to reimagine, recreate, restore what our world looks like. Julie, over to you to share the trailer.
Thank you so much, Jamie. So this is the course trailer for the ecosystem restoration course, and I hope it will put the course into context and get you excited for what's to come.
In just one generation, we've come a long way in improving people's lives. But the health of our ecosystems hasn't kept pace with this progress. It's time to reverse the damage and heal our planet. Turning things around will take a global movement, a movement catalyzed by the United Nations Decade on Ecosystem Restoration. Over the next 10 years, every concerned citizen will work to prevent, stop, and counter the effects of environmental degradation on every continent and in every ocean. Become a part of Generation Restoration. Register for a free course on ecosystem restoration offered by the United Nations Development Programme and the Convention on Biological Diversity. In this 5-week course, you'll begin your journey towards creating a blueprint to renew natural resources and biodiversity. Based on the short-term action plan adopted by countries under the Convention on Biological Diversity, this course will teach you to develop a step-by-step ecosystem restoration roadmap. Finally, you'll join a community of practice committed to transformative change for a sustainable future for all. Don't miss your chance to make an impact and contribute to the achievement of the post-2020 Global Biodiversity Framework. Get started on your tailored pathway to restore our world. Register today.
Thank you so much, everyone. I hope you liked the trailer and will register for the course. We put the link to the course registration right in the chat, and back over to you, Blaze.
Thank you, Julie, and thank you, Jamie, for letting us know about this amazing resource that the Learning for Nature platform is, and we're really glad that ecosystem restoration will now be featured on it and has its own and have its own course. Next, we have a couple of speakers that will give us their views on the importance of capacity building for ecosystem restoration from different viewpoints. So we have with us Bethany Walder, Executive Director of the Society for Ecological Restoration, who will provide a comment on the importance of scientific considerations in terms of implementing ecosystem restoration. And then we have with us Lily Rodriguez, Director of CIMA, a conservation and restoration NGO based in Peru, who can tell us about the value of these courses, of these e-learning courses from a practitioner's point of view. And finally, we'll hear from Andrea Romero at FAO, who's been conducted a global survey on a capacity needs assessment for ecosystem restoration, and therefore has really great insight on the needs for this type of resources. And we'll provide a quick comment on that as well, and show us some results of that survey. So first, I'll pass the floor on to Bethany. Bethany Walder joined the Society for Ecological Restoration as Executive Director in 2015, and has more than 20 years of experience in environmental conservation, restoration, and education. We're really glad to have SCR with us today. Bethany, over to you.
Thank you very much. And I'm just forgetting to unmute while I'm also trying to share my screen. So I should do one of those at a time. Okay. So I'm very pleased to be here, and thank you to the CBD for this invitation and for the opportunity to present today. So we just are discussing why is it important that we do this capacity building? Why do we need a course like this or other courses? And I think it's important to remember as we enter the UN decade that restoration ecology is a dynamic and very young science. And in that context, there are actually very few or relatively few colleges and universities around the world that offer restoration ecology or ecological restoration degree programs. Back in 2008, which is 12 years ago, in the United States, there were only 8 programs. There's probably closer to 50 or 75. We did a resurvey in about 8 years later, and there were about 50. But SER actually has a listing on our website that I'll mention later of academic programs that we know of around the world. And if you know of ones that are not listed there, please inform us, because it's a constantly evolving process. But restoration project outcomes themselves are uncertain because the field is dynamic, because ecosystems are dynamic, because the climate is changing. It's really hard to plan and implement restoration projects effectively. So the more we can have understanding and knowledge and capacity, the better we can do. So increased education and training can improve restoration outcomes, and that will improve the effectiveness of the UN decade on ecosystem restoration. It will also increase support and funding for restoration, and if we do all of those things, we're going to achieve that vision of the ecosystem decade, which is transformative change and a healed planet. So there's a variety of capacity building needs. I'm not going to read everything on this slide. Don't worry about it. But one of the biggest things is online learning opportunities. And I really look forward to hearing Andrea's assessment of what our actual capacity building needs are. But it's really exciting that the CBD is working on this e-learning course on ecosystem restoration and looking specifically and pulling all of the different resources on forest and landscape restoration, ecological restoration, landscape level restoration together into one common course. SER also offers a short course, about 2.5 hours, that goes through our standards, which I'll explain in a minute. And there are other existing online learning tools like webinars, virtual field trips, etc. There are also trainings available to support restoration planning. There's a need for that, and there are also existing trainings that are out there. But one of the things I want to specifically mention today is that most trainings focus on restoration designers and restoration planners, not on the ecosystem restoration workforce. So we also need to look at capacity building for the people who are doing that work. And we're partnering with an organization in California right now on that type of work. And I'm just going to move on from here. So SER has a variety of capacity building initiatives. I won't talk about all of these today, but our international principles and standards for the practice of ecological restoration are an important initiative or tool that people can use, and they're discussed in detail in the e-learning course that CBD is introducing. We also offer a restoration resource center that's really a knowledge hub for restoration information that's open access, and we have a program to certify restoration practitioners. So very briefly on the international standards, the second edition was introduced in 2019. They've now been downloaded nearly 30,000 times in just 18 months since their introduction. And they go through the principles of ecological restoration, standards of practice, and other tools. But SER does offer an e-learning course, as I mentioned earlier, and I'll put links in the chat, that walks you through this in about a 2-hour time period. And it's available in Spanish, French, Chinese, Ukrainian, with Portuguese coming soon, and several other translations in process. In the Restoration Resource Center, we have a project where we've worked with the CBD on the short-term action plan for ecosystem restoration to help bring that program to life. I think the new e-learning course will do that at an even greater level, but it's a great opportunity to learn more about the case studies that are in the short-term action plan and other ways that you can build out restoration. The database, we have a projects database and also a resources database with over 1,000 resources in it. And then again, we have this project with the CBD where we have and you saw some in the video, you saw some actual links from that website where we've really helped bring that project to life. So I think I'm out of time and I need to stop here, but I thank you very much for your time, and I'll put a couple of links in the chat with more information. Again, thank you for the opportunity to share with you today, and we'd be happy to engage separately, offline as needed. Stop share. Okay.
Thank you so much, Bethany. And I would definitely agree that, you know, as you said, ecosystem restoration is still a very dynamic and evolving field. And we definitely saw that when we're preparing the content of the course. It's a lot of concepts that are still being debated and defined, really. And the content we've developed for the course will help those that take it to navigate all these terms that are overlapping and all these concepts. I would like, before we move to the next speaker, to remind our participant that if you have any questions, you can put them in through the Q&A window, and we'll be happy to answer them at the end after the presentations. So next, I would like to invite Lili Rodriguez to give her presentation. Lili is a Peruvian biologist, doctor in ecology with an extensive experience in international cooperation in nature conservation. And she's the founder and current director of the Institutional Development and Research at the Center for Conservation, Research and Management of Natural Areas, CIMA Cordillera Azul. Lili, the floor is yours.
Thank you. If you allow me to share my screen, that will be easier. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Thank you. So it is very important for us to have enough capacities at different levels for implementing this decade of ecological restoration. So CIMA has started this project in 2018 with FERI, with the help of the CBD and Korean government. And we work in this area in the middle of the big red spots of deforestation in Peru. So we are very much threatened. The park is very much threatened by deforestation and becoming an island. So we decided to implement restoration, but we work in a big landscape full of people and economic activities. And there is, with this deforestation happens. So we thought it will be very important to involve the people. And so we are working, I don't know if you can see well my screen. Anyway, so we are working on this concept of the habitat amount hypothesis to implement restoration around the areas and on those small areas of forests or secondary forests, that potential secondary forests that are not being used. So we work following the successional stage of the forest, and we refer to the reference ecosystem. So to do that, we need to understand and know the species and have enough seeds, and the phenology, know the pollinators, know. So we are gathering a lot of information from literature, but also we are working with one of the universities nearby, which are not specialized on forest restoration, but we are learning together how to put together enough capacities on the professors, on the students, and also on the local people, but working on these schools for local people, where we go to the field and work on the different aspects. So we have implemented, we have here all the institutions participating, the park office and the two towns that work, that are being the implementers, the university and well, the funders. And so we have been implementing this capacity building because this is the only way to be able to scale up from these 62, or now we have about 150 hectares around the park already established and connected. And so on the right here, we have a local person who has learned to use and to climb to the trees to collect the plants for the for gathering information on having the right identification of the species of the trees. On the left top, we have one of the students who has been working, and he's doing his thesis on this taxonomy on the forest ecosystem reference. And below we have one of the capacity building sessions we had with the local people. So we are working then on the monitoring, and again, for the monitoring, the students are participating on taking the measurements of the plants. On this map, we have all this connectivity we are creating with the patches of forest, so that we have a landscape that is being restored, and we hope that in a short time, we already have 2 years, so the plants are growing. It's not yet visible in the satellite images. This is another capacity we need to work on, working with drones on monitoring the forest. We monitor biodiversity with camera traps. And then we are here, we have a map where all these new initiatives that started just in 2 spots on the San Juan and Lejía areas are increasing now. And this picture on the lower picture is a group of visitors from one private funder from France who came and is going to invest on restoring now about 5,000 hectares in a landscape of about 27,000 hectares. So I stop here. I don't know if you have questions, and this is to show you the experience we have in the ground. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lily. And it was really great to learn about this practical example on the ground, and you know, the value of capacity building to reinforce this implementation. We now have our last speaker for the day, Andrea Romero, who will tell us about the capacity needs assessment survey that you conducted for FAO on behalf of the UN Decade Task Force on Good Practices. Andrea is a Colombian forest engineer with a MSc in Forest and Nature Conservation from Wageningen University, and she joined the Forest and Landscape Restoration Mechanism at FAO in 2020 to support the work of the Task Force on Good Practices. Andrea, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Blas. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all. I'm here on behalf of the Task Force on Best Practices to present some of the findings of our capacity needs assessment that we undertook recently. So, okay. So we conducted this capacity needs assessment in order to identify what and whose system-wide capacities need to be enhanced to achieve the goals of the UN decade. And for this, we mean capacities for all individuals, organizations, and networks at all scales. So this assessment will be useful to provide a baseline of existing capacities, to help us identify the strengths, gaps, needs, and barriers to achieving restoration goals, the global restoration goals, and to guide the capacity development efforts throughout the UN decade. So we started with the process around 1 year ago, And we undertook and conducted a global survey that started from mid-February to the beginning of May, and that was available in 7 languages. And for this, we received 1,331 responses. And in the upcoming few months, we will elaborate the full report of the findings. So I'm going to give you a quick overview of our respondents. And most of them were male, representing the 65%. And we got a broad representation of respondents across age categories, with a peak in the category between 35 to 44 years. More than half of our respondents belong to Africa, Asia Pacific, and Latin America and the Caribbean. And in terms of the ecosystems in which they focus their restoration work, they mostly work on forest, farmlands, and we got a low representation of respondents working on oceans and coasts. That is something that we need to enhance in the future. So we also asked our respondents whether they had access to professional capacity development opportunities. And here in this graph, we can see that we have a considerable amount of respondents who do not have access to professional capacity development opportunities. And this is particularly low for African and Europe and Central Asia. So this is where the e-learning courses and opportunities play a fundamental role to meet this gap. In addition, we ask our respondents to define which category, stakeholder category group they represent, as we formulated specific questions per each of the groups. So in general, most of our respondents represent governments, NGOs, and others on national and international level, followed by the research and education sector and the land users, small scale producers, and community groups, with the highest representation in our survey. So this was helpful to identify major gaps per group. And for the governments and NGOs and organizations working at national and international levels, but also at the local and subnational scale, we could identify common gaps that could be addressed. So here, for this, we include the engagement of sectors as the mining, marine and finance and private sector in restoration activities, and also the development of policies and actions that provide equitable access to markets for local communities and that enhance land resource ownership, tenure, and rights. And regarding the implementation of restoration initiatives, the development of supply or value chains and markets is also part of the major gaps that are common for both of the groups. In particular, for governments and NGOs at national and international level, finance mobilization is a major gap that needs special attention. And for local and subnational governments, NGOs, and community-based organizations, the planning and monitoring phases are critical. For respondents working on research and education, they need to develop capacity on the assessment of cost and benefits on degradation and restoration, and also on the development of decision support tools, models, and guidelines, in particular related to the development of bankable business and business models, and also to the enhancement of capacity and support services that are inclusive, gender responsive, and harmonized. Now, for the fourth group of respondents belonging to private sector investors or donors, the sustainable financing for restoration, in particular the development of long-term funding mechanisms or commitments, is a major gap. And also the development of innovative financing solutions and the management of investment risk. These are the major gaps for this group. And finally, for land users, communities, and other groups at the local level, finance mobilization is also a big issue at community level. And regarding the implementation and monitoring of community-based restoration activities, the mediation of land use conflicts, the mapping of geographic boundaries, and the alignment of plans with subnational and national ones is a major gap. And with regards to the organizational capacity development and engagement, the documentation and implementation of indigenous and traditional restoration practices, together with the development of inclusive and sustainable value chains, are also major gaps that in which we need to focus the development of capacity efforts on restoration. So this will be the end of my presentation. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Andrea, for sharing these insights about capacity needs from different groups. And I think we could see as part of the gaps you highlighted in capacity, policy design, planning, implementation, monitoring, and all of this is covered by the course. So I'm really glad. And we have, a set of modules addressing all of these different aspects. So it's really great to see that there's a good match there. So we have still a couple of minutes for any questions that our participants might have. So if you have any questions on the practicalities of accessing the course or on the content, please do let us know through the Q&A window. And otherwise, I would just invite, if any of our panelists for today have any comments on the other presentations that have been given, if you would like to make a quick comment, as we still have a few minutes. Yes, Jamie.
Thanks, Blaise. And I really do invite warmly everyone who's on this call to register for the course and join. And I also urge everyone on the course to think about what are some of the reasons why we're faced in a world that is so degraded, so much has been lost. And so part of thinking about restoration is thinking about what are the drivers that are leading to restoration, leading to degraded forests, degraded wetlands. And I encourage them to also become active in thinking about how do we transform finance? How do we transform governance? How do we transform local action to prevent this degradation in the first part? That's the other half of the UN Decade on Restoration, is preventing ecosystem degradation.
Yeah, thank you, Jamie. I think that really resonates, and we hope that, actors from not just, the usual suspects of, the fields of environmental policy, but, a really broad range of actors will be able to take this course and learn more about ecosystem restoration, and hopefully in the process, also understand the value of ecosystems, before they are degraded, really. Do we have any other comments from our panelists today? Anthony?
I was going to let Lily go first. She had her hand up earlier.
Okay, so let's listen to Lily then.
Just very short comment on the Andrea presentation. It's very interesting. We have a very a common challenge with land tenure, and I think that and this goes back to Jameson's comment on this, why we have deforestation. And so I think that something very important will be to have some place for us during the course to learn more about and exchange experiences on how to solve the problem of land tenure or rights for the land. That will be, I think, very important. It is the most challenging for us. We have a RED project for the park, and this is bringing some private investors for restoration, which is very good. But we have this challenge with land tenure. Thank you.
No, thank you, Lily. Actually, this is funny because this is a debate we had in preparing the content for the course. We definitely have some content about tenure, some guidance on how to improve the land tenure prior to those restoration actions starting on the ground. And we also had some debate about, how much can we expect, a restoration practitioner to solve that problem before they can start, because it's such a major issue. Yeah. And so we were wondering, also like measuring expectations there, like definitely providing guidance, but yeah, this is something that has to be addressed, definitely. So we'll listen now quickly to Bethany and then to Lisa for some closing words.
Well, I want to reiterate or kind of build on what Jamie said, and just say that as we enter the UN decade, it's such an incredible opportunity for everyone to own this idea that we can make change that puts the whole planet into a better condition for everyone, for people, for nature, for animals, for microorganisms, for soil, etc. And so the UN decade is this incredible, inspiring opportunity, but it takes all of us to do that. And this course is one of the first steps that people can use to get the resources they need to do that work in their backyard. SCR is actually hosting Make a Difference Week, which starts today and runs through June 13th. For a week to show that collective restorative action local restorative action collectively can really lead to global change. We have more than 130 projects around the world, and I'll quick post that link in the chat. I forgot to mention it, but just really look forward to working with everybody to implement an exciting and hopefully transformative UN decade. And thanks again.
Thank you, Bethany. And Lisa, I'll hand over to you for the final words, and then we'll close this event because we're already running a couple of minutes late.
Yes, okay, I understood. Yeah, no, thanks a lot, Blaise. I just wanted to echo the comments of Jamie that, the very first step in ecosystem restoration is avoiding the degradation in the first place. It's a key component. It's in the modules, but we can't really emphasize it enough. And on Lily's point, we are involving in these modules at every point, at every step in the process of ecosystem restoration, the involvement of Indigenous peoples and local communities and all relevant stakeholders in the process. But again, land tenure deserves a whole set of modules on its own to find ways forward to resolve those difficulties. And I guess in short, I just want to thank the experts from UNDP as well for this whole event today. And I think we can look for the work that's being done in the post-2020 Global Biodiversity Framework to develop it and to negotiate a workable framework with outcome-oriented targets. I think that these e-learning modules will go a long way towards supporting implementation of that framework. So I think that we're looking forward to all the registrations and to all the work ahead. And I'll close with that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lisa. And a huge thank you to our panelists today and to our participants for their attention. And we look forward to welcome you for the course itself. And we invite you obviously to register at the link that has been provided, and we'll look forward to see you taking the course in September. Thanks everyone, and have a great rest of your World.
Thanks everyone.
Thank
you so much.
Thanks. Bye.
Happy World Environment Day.
Bye. Thank you.
Happy World Environment Day.